this is the part of the year where I think a lot of us start to kind of settle in on our takes. You know, we kind of plant our feet firmly on what we think is going to happen in the 2025 season. And when we were in Atlanta, there was a lot of people that said this in a kind way to us. They said, y'all are always so positive. You always see the glass half full. Now, in this segment, I'm going to have a couple of things that I say that are positive, but I just want to make this very clear. There's a couple of things that I'm disagreeing with vehemently in a negative sense relative to the narrative nationally around the college football world. Now, before we get to this, I want to just touch on the positivity point for as to why, or maybe that's the disposition. One, I think I'm just a positive guy, all right? Like, just full transparency. I think I'm a positive person. I like to see the glass half full. That's one side. But on the perspective of, viewing college football, like, I think Caden Smith, our producer, could attest to this. When you actually played the sport and you're in those locker rooms, you know how quickly things can change. Like, I don't think either of us ever walked into a game where we just thought we had no shot. I think that's the difference between watching the sport and playing the sport. Things can change on a dime. It's 18 to 22-year-olds playing a sport where the ball is shaped funny and bounces weird. I don't think it's ever firmly written in stone what the outcome is going to be. So when we talk through things in a positive way, like, that's just us saying, hey, this is kind of the way things could get right for that team or this team. But that's the precursor to then get a little bit negative here. A couple of things that I'm not buying when it comes to the 2025 season. I hear a lot of preseason buzz around Penn State being picked to win the Big Ten by the media, being picked to win the national championship, being picked as like a front runner of sorts. And here's what I want to make sure I clarify. I think Penn State is absolutely a national title contender. I do not think Penn State is worthy right now of being picked to win the Big Ten or picked to be a national championship favorite in the eyes of what Vegas is saying. I like Drew Aller a lot. I think he's probably the most proven quarterback in the Big Ten. But with that being said, all that Penn State brought back, a lot of those guys were on the roster last year, but you lost Tyler Warren, lost an Abdul Carter. You brought in Jim Knowles. That's phenomenal. But, was the defense really, the issue last year necessarily? The Oregon game, maybe you say yes. But by and large, the guys that are back for Penn State, it still, to me, comes down to what do you have in that receiving corps. And I like Trevor Pena. Is he making the difference to being a national champion? Tyler Warren, is there anybody at his caliber still on this roster to go catch the football for Drew Aller? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I will happily admit that, but I don't see Penn State being this team where we're saying, hey, pick them in the national championship. Just my opinion right now. I'm not buying that right now when it comes to Penn State in the preseason buzz. Staying in the Big Ten, a lot of trendy picks for Illinois to be a college football playoff team. Because I get it. Finished the year strong. Luke Altmaier's back. Brett Bielema's awesome. Do not misunderstand me. But for everything good Illinois did last year, they were 5-1 in one-score games. It's very difficult for those numbers to hold from one year to the next. I mean, I don't know that if you played last year's schedule again if you're Illinois and had all those games played the exact same way, I don't know if it holds to a one-score advantage for Illinois 5 of those 6 games. Also, it's worth noting, everyone's got your circle now if you're Illinois. Because everyone is on social media, everyone sees the pics of Illinois, trendy team to make the playoff, to win 10 games, whatever. I think that's different territory for Illinois to walk into, and I don't know if I trust them to handle that the way that maybe most folks are expecting them to handle that. So people are saying they're this year's Indiana. Not buying that, not buying Illinois as a college football playoff team as of right now. If we're wrong, and we'll eat crow. Notre Dame, I think the narrative around them is they need to overachieve with their schedule. Hey, they got lower margin for error, right? No conference title. In most years, that would be true. Notre Dame, with this schedule, does not need to go 11-1 to make the playoff, in my opinion. This is not your dad's Notre Dame schedule where they play a couple of cupcakes and play, a couple of mid-ACC teams. I don't think it's crazy when you look at Notre Dame's schedule to assume they could play 2 to 3 college football playoff teams. Like Miami, I don't think it's crazy to say they make the playoff. If that happens, A&M and or USC. Y'all, Boise State made the playoff last year. They have the best odds of any G5 team to win their conference. They're at minus money right now. Even if you're not believing the A&M and USC hype, Boise State and Miami, those are 2 playoff teams potentially, right? With how wide open the ACC feels. So if Notre Dame goes 10-2 and they got 2 wins over playoff teams, Are they getting left out of the playoff? I don't think so. I think they're 10-2 with that kind of optics around it. I think holds up pretty well relative to a 10-2 Big Ten team. Just my thought there. So Notre Dame overachieving, not buying that. Now, I've been on record here. I do not think Florida State is some juggernaut in 2025. I don't think they factor into the ACC title race. But I also think that the way they're being talked about right now is almost like they're this easy win for a lot of teams. I think, and it's fair based on what last year was, because you saw them go 2-10 and look abysmal offensively and, quite frankly, defensively as well. But I don't think Florida State is just some walkover win this year. Now, I've said before, I think they're going to go 7-5, which is not all that impressive to write home about. But I think stylistically, with how they're going to call the offense, they're going to be a pain to play against, dude. Just that they are. They're going to be a team with some options. They're going to be a team with a mobile quarterback, which is a headache in itself. A team with just more steady hands at coordinator and Tony White on the defensive side and Gus Malzahn on the offensive side. If they are 5-2 heading into November, which is a big if, that would require them to get a win over Pitt, I believe, and be able to win the games they're supposed to win. If they get some belief at 5-2 heading into November, I'm not telling you they factor into the conference title race still, but I will say they will be that much more annoying because if Thomas Castellanos gets some more confidence and some moxie and something to point to and gets his team riled up a little bit more, which we've seen him try to do with how he's talking about Alabama, I just think Florida State will become that much more annoying to play. So this is someone who's telling you I'm taking the under on wins. I don't think they're going to be this team that's a juggernaut in the ACC, but to think they're going to be just some walkover win and you just show up and play Florida State and by that logic you've already got the dub handled, I don't think it's quite that cut and dry. So I'm not buying that narrative. Last one here, LSU, it's been well documented. It was well documented last week in Atlanta. I'm extremely high on the Tigers. But the pushback I get when I tell you how much I like LSU as well, but JD, Brian Kelly, I mean, what do you do with that? He's the problem, right? If Brian Kelly was the problem, I don't think he is anymore. Because there's been a lot of buzz around Baton Rouge that Brian Kelly has maybe surrendered some responsibilities or ways of doing things that he stuck to previously that needed to be fit for LSU and the SEC and how they handle acquiring talent and just that whole sector of things. Dude's a good football coach. Say what you want to say. Dude's a good football coach. TikTok's kind of cringy, sure. The southern accent thing, yeah, I didn't really get that either. He's won 70% of his games now over 20 years. Guy can coach football. JD hasn't won a national championship. Okay? Is that supposed to be the determining factor of being a good or bad coach in college football? Hasn't done it yet, right? It's really freaking hard. We got 136 teams now in college football. They're giving out one national championship. One national title will be earned. Just because Brian Kelly hasn't done that yet, I don't think is grounds for saying he's holding LSU back by any stretch of the imagination. So for LSU, I'm very high on them. Obviously, I've said that many times, but to think that Brian Kelly's the problem there, not buying that, and I'm very curious to hear y'all's take on some of these as well. So that's what I'm not buying here in 2025. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.